Let's see. We're live right now.
Well,
And we're just going to make sure that we get ourselves going here, and then we'll let everybody into the room. We've got a few people in the waiting room, so hang tight. We'll be with you in just a moment. We just got to be sure that everything is working on this end, because we know how it can be sometimes. Okay, let's see. And we're going to, there we go. And we are live. I can see us on Facebook now.
excellent.
And good morning, everybody. We're in an interesting spot, because we're kind of, it's a change of seasons, it's a change of months, because obviously it's last Monday of the month, and we've got changing things, and we have stuff to talk about. So I want everybody to be prepared to discuss their craziest hot market story. Crazy, crazy, crazy good, crazy bad. Doesn't have to just be crazy. If it's, I think, Lori has some things to share with us this morning. So we will get going here. Let me go ahead. Shall I let everybody in?
Let's let everybody in.
Okay, let's let everybody in.
It's like the grand opening.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
Good morning, you guys.
See here. Good morning, everybody. Where are you? I see Gary. Pam hasn't come to the lake yet. There we go. Nice to see Jim. Nice to see everybody. Oh, there. Oh, it's kind of cute. We got Pam and Gary sitting next to each other here.
They're not sitting next to each other on my end, but they're not in the same place. No.
Okay.
I cannot get up. There we go. Now I was able to sit you next to each other. It's so nice to drag people around.
Whether you're doing it virtually or.
Yeah, get to drag them. So good morning, you guys.
Take yourselves off mute and say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It makes Monday fun. I mean, Monday's fun anyway. Well, for this, like not in general, but for coffee and compliance, it's always fun to do this. But it's always really fun to have people join us.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you all the way from Cabo San Lucas. You can see.
Awesome.
And where did you ship Pam off to?
I have no idea. I haven't seen her in weeks.
And how are you this morning, Mr. Thor?
I'm doing just super, to real good.
Fantastic. Good to hear. And if anybody out there on Facebook wants to hop in, just go hit that link that I posted a gazillion times and come join us on here if you want to chat. Otherwise, we're going to be watching what you're doing in the comments here, and you can just comment right along and I'll relay them the best I can. So,
and Lisa, the Zoom link worked out well. Your learning worked out really well.
Well, thank you, Jim. I haven't screwed up yet. Just wait. I've done some massive screw ups in my day. So we're gonna just cross our fingers. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mute everybody but Lori. So hang tight just a second. And okay, let's see. Lori, there you go. You should be able to, okay. So Lori, what's new? Did they tell us anything earth shaking on Friday at the Friday meeting?
Yes and no. The big question of the week was, are we fully open once we move into the next tier this week? And the answer is no. So as much as things things are starting to open up and the numbers are all improving, that hasn't changed the industry guidance as of yet. So the moment we switch to the next tier doesn't mean everything is reopened. So be mindful of that. We're still bound by the current industry guidance. However, it does open the conversation for CAR to go to the state departments and say, well, look, movie theaters are open, restaurant, indoor dining is open to certain capacities. What about us? And so, they were reminding us, stick with the current guidelines. It will give us the opportunity to have that conversation. They didn't give us any indication as to whether they have easy access to have those conversations or not, or when those conversations would happen. And part of the challenge, keep in mind, is they're looking at the hardest hit industries first. And for all intents and purposes, our industry has been doing really well. So it's a little hard for us to say, oh, woe is us, we're suffering so badly. We feel it within the industry on our limitations, but publicly, it looks like we're just rocking and rolling every day of the week. So keep that in mind. We're not going to probably be top priority, but it will open that conversation. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll start to see some change to that industry guidance, whether it's coming weeks, coming months, unknown. So just hang tight. As soon as we hear anything, we'll be sure everyone is aware. So that's the big news on the COVID front. No changes yet.
So it's still no open houses, and we had our little risk management broker forum the other day, and we had Tom Jacobson chat with us a little bit at that. I know Pam was there. We were so happy Pam joined us. And he mentioned still no flyers, no open houses. I think that pretty much, we all kind of know that we probably, really, do we even need open houses at this point? No, I'm kind of liking no open houses myself. I miss it that I don't get to see and talk to the neighbors and that kind of stuff. But, it's just, we do it for ourselves, and we can say we do it for our clients, but we do it for ourselves. So it'll be interesting to see when the day comes that we can start dropping stuff off. Now, Lori, did they mention anything in the Friday meeting on what they're predicating the changes on? Are they doing it on COVID rates? Are they doing it on vaccination rates? Did they mention anything, what they're watching?
No, because remember, it's not CAR that has the real influence on it. It's from Department of Health. And so whatever their metrics is will be what they apply to other industries as well. And, I think it's a good question. We were on a session last week with some brokers, and one of the brokers brought up the point, in the beginning, we adapted and we created company policies that said, look, our policy is we're going to follow the state guidance. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And as the comment was made that when we look at the agent population, it's a subset of the entire population, which is really true. And when you think about that, there's different political beliefs, there's different religious beliefs, there's difference of opinion. And so when you take all that into consideration, now we introduce a vaccine, people have their opinions on that and their beliefs on that. And does that change how a company expects its employees or independent contracts to operate? Maybe, maybe not. But the reality is whatever the policy is, that's the policy. And it really doesn't matter what you personally believe and whether you've been vaccinated or not. You still have to follow whatever guidance you're given. And so if you're an agent or a broker associate, it's what does your brokerage say? And if you're a member of, not a member, a resident of the state of California, what does the state say? And so I think that will weigh into the discussion, but I don't know that they're going to, how they're going to divvy up the numbers and create the balance that makes sense. I don't know. But it's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of months, depending on how fast the vaccines get out and how people, I don't know. This is all uncharted territory. We don't have any idea what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Coming out, we don't know.
Right, and there are going to be people who are vaccine hesitant or will just opt to not get the vaccine. So it's not it doesn't solve everything. So we have to be mindful of that. There's going to be part of the population that just says, I'll wait. I have somebody very close to me who's like, yeah, I'm going to wait. It's like, well, great. Everyone around you got the vaccine and you're going to wait. Thanks.
They're just counting on the herd.
Yeah. Well, there's a strong probability there's already antibody there from before we really heard about COVID. You know, their family was really sick before we started hearing about COVID. So that late fall of what, 2018? Was it 18? 2019?
19.
I don't know. The years all blend. Who knows? It was a while ago.
We have lost track of time completely ever since this whole pandemic has started. Nothing makes sense.
Absolutely. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. But, you know, the important thing is you have to follow the guidance that's in front of us. And a conversation that Lisa and I were part of last week, you know, there was a strong sense of too much of the guidance was just subject to interpretation. And I think we talked about that ad nauseum in this group that, you know, hey, well, it says this, but does it really say this? You know, well, you read it this way and one attorney interprets it this way and one broker interprets it that way. You know, it's been all over the board, but we have to be careful what we wish for, because if we want specific details in the rules or in the laws, then are we opening ourselves up for our entire industry to be that legislated? And do we want that? No way. No way.
Nope, we certainly don't. Well, and speaking of other things that are changing, interest rates. Do we have any lenders that would like to give us an update? What's going on? I think we've got a couple here in the Zoom room. And go ahead and take yourself off mute if you would like to speak. Carrie, you want to say something?
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Monday. We waited all weekend for it. Hey, so rates are kind of, they're threes. To be honest, the twos are gone. You can still buy them down to a two, but to get a two, you're going to have to pay money. It's been projected. They're supposed to stay in the threes this year. Could be the high threes, could be the mid. Probably next year, we'll start seeing fours. So, you know, when people are asking you, when's a good time to buy? When they can afford it. Don't worry about the rates. Don't worry about the values, the prices. If they can afford it and they want a home, let's do it. The rates are going to be like, they change daily. We get sometimes 3 and 4 times a day. Rates are on the rise. Lucky us, rates are lowering. So just talk to your lending professionals. We stock the market to make sure that our clients get the best deal we can. And that's really the best I can tell you is they're up and down. They're not going to be going radically up at this point, but they will be higher than the twos that we saw last year. So if you have any questions, let any of us know. We're here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you know, I mean, it's what we expect. And as the economy gets better, the rates should probably increase. Am I correct on that, Carrie?
You know, it depends. You know, they thought about 2 years ago, hey, let's go ahead and raise them. And they raised them about 1% in 1 week. And the market really felt it. So they realized that wasn't the best thing to do. What I will suggest is to all the realtors on here that have pre-approved buyers out there shopping, maybe it's been a couple of months of tough times finding the right property, offers accepted, reach out to your investors, make sure that your clients are still approved. If they were approved at 2.75 and they're now 3.125, most of them will still qualify, but there's a chance that they may not. And the last thing you want to do is waste your time out there shopping or trying to get them approved or their offer accepted on a loan that maybe they need to now strategize a gift. There's ways to get it done, but you're going to have to sometimes be a little more creative.
Well, and also too, there would be a shift in their buying power as well. So they need to know what their parameters are for house shopping now that the rate's gone up. You know, they could have been approved up to, you know, like for a $700,000 purchase, and maybe now they're down to a 675, 650 or something. So I think it's pretty prudent for everybody if you've got a buyer that you haven't been able to secure a property for, to do a little check-in with the lender and say, so what's my buying power today for my client? So you're not showing them things that they can't buy, that they could have bought a couple of months ago, but they can't buy now.
I do have good news on a different front, which is the non-qualified mortgage. So that's the non-Freddie, Fannie, FHA, and VA. We're seeing a lot more flexibility. A lot of those programs are opening up. I was just discussing with a client who's buying a $1.1 million home, putting about $600,000 down, how 8 months ago, I could have never gotten him the loan that we're getting him today. So there is a lot more flexibility coming in the products. And so, and even those rates that were, they were 6% when they rolled them back out, I'm getting some of them in the low 4s. So, and even some of them on a case by case are coming in the high 3s. So there's a lot more flexibility than there was 8 months ago when everything was starting, you know, to have layers. And about May of last year, we saw a lot of our non-qualified people pull out, our investors, and just stop lending through the end of July. They're back, and they're back strong. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. Sometimes it just takes some creativity. And on your note where they may have qualified and they lost their buying power, you're right, they may have to minimize, or sometimes it's having a family member gift them the cost to buy down the rate to what they qualified for. Again, there's a lot of creativity that can be done still to keep houses moving.
That's a good thought too. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Lori.
No, that's okay. As you were talking, the first part of your conversation, Carrie, with the rates, you know, we think in our side of the business that things change a lot. And the reality is, I mean, you guys are going through 3 and 4 rate changes a day. Like I felt like my anxiety level rise. Like I couldn't handle that. Number one, I can't even keep the numbers straight. So I always really admire lenders for that ability to just know, you know, off the top of their head. I'd be that person that says, wait, let me refer to the chart like 12 times a day, because it just changes so much. And to hear that it just can change 3 and 4 times throughout the day, oh my gosh, that's stressful.
Very stressful.
Very stressful.
It's stressful when you got a buyer that's like, well, what's the rates doing? It's like, I don't know. It's been 2 hours. It might have changed.
9 a.m. office meeting. Gosh, by noon it could be completely different.
And really, and nothing's worse than a Friday afternoon quote, because you never know what's going to happen Monday morning. So yeah, this is kind of crazy out there. So thank you for that update. Do we have any other lenders in the room that would like to say anything regarding this? Okay, moving on. Does everybody know where their little raise hand function is on their little Zoom thingy mabob? Because right now we're going to get to, let's see, we've got somebody kind of being a blob there. Okay. Who's got the best stories and what are you seeing right now? I'm a little out of the loop. I got some things closing. I've got some buyers that are scared to do anything right now. So I haven't been out actively showing right now. Who's got something? Who can give me an update from the field? Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. Inez, let's see, unmute and what's happening?
Hi, good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really not so much maybe a story in the way that you're looking for, but I'm just wondering if anybody else is experiencing what I feel is the complete chaos of a coming soon. And I joined late, so I don't know if you've already discussed it, but I've had challenges this morning with my audio.
Yeah, I see you popping in and out.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I almost spit coffee out of my nose on that because this is something I want us to have a full morning to talk about, because I don't think the coming soons are working out quite like the way they thought.
I am serious as a heart attack when I say I would love to know if we could petition to make it go away, because it's so frustrating. Nobody reads the private notes. Nobody, even your fellow associates that you work with, that you know they know the guidelines, or those other agents in other firms will call you to beg you to please, let my client come into your coming soon, and they know better, and it makes you look like the bad guy, and it just creates chaos in the field that we just don't need.
I agree 100%, because how do you explain to a buyer that this coming soon that you've been watching, let's say, is going to come on the market on April 15th, and you're like, okay, don't worry, I'm going to get you an appointment to see that, not quite sure when, not quite sure how. And then all of a sudden they changed the day to like April 5th. And now you blew it because you're watching the calendar for one day. And unless you're watching every single thing, it's just like, and I'm hearing people are sending letters and notes to the sellers directly.
Right.
Yeah.
And even worse, if they advertise it as a coming soon, April 15th, and so we all have in our heads, okay, we'll send the PEAT on the 14th. You can't schedule it, obviously, through showing time. And then all of a sudden, like you said, Lisa, it gets updated and it goes active. And then within hours, boom, guess what? Pending.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know our showings, but yeah, pending is a possibility too.
It's like whoever created this, I'm not going to say what I'm really thinking because I'll go to jail, but it needs to go away.
Just real estate jail, Anna.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Lori, do you think maybe we can get somebody from CRMLS to come on and chat about this a little bit?
Yeah, I think we certainly can. And we had not talked about it yet this morning. And almost every meeting that I'm on with people outside of our county, they're all struggling the same as well. So there is a lot of conversation about how it's not working and how other MLSs don't actually have a coming soon. So they actually have it worse. I heard some things last week that I thought, well, that's the definition of coming soon. And I saw a note in the chat that said, we don't have coming soon on our MLS. So it's just so inconsistent, and there are a lot of issues. I don't know how well they vetted this plan. I'm sure that the group of people that were in the conversation to figure out all the logistics of it, they're all practitioners, but I don't know that they realized how creative people would get to figure out how to game the system. So I don't think that this is going to be solved easily, but I could tell you it sounds like everyone's in the know that this is not working, and so they're looking at, okay, what do we do next?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of okay, when are we going to sit down and tweak the rules here? I mean, it's we've been doing this for quite some time. I don't know. Like I said, lost all track of time. I don't know what day it is. I do know it's Monday because we're
Well,
here.
I think they released it in May of last year.
Well, I guess it's time that they
almost
fix
a year.
this.
It's almost a year.
Because my personal take on it is the one thing that really, the more, it didn't bother me at the beginning, but it's really bothering me now, is that the large brokerages can share their listings within their brokerage. That's the one thing you can do with the coming soon listings. And it's like, okay, so what about the little guys? Little guys being anybody who's not a huge, big mega broker, and that they can go out and, you're putting it out to hundreds of agents. What do you need the MLS for at this point? Why do you think they're going pending? They're selling them in-house. I mean, not all of them, and I'm speculating here, but that has to be happening at some point. So how is this fair? How is this good for the consumer? I mean, there's things that they need to, Inez brought up great points, and there's more points out there, and I want everybody to write them down. So when we get somebody from CRMLS on, we have plenty of questions for them. But let's see, we have Yvonne with her hand up, and go ahead and what's up, Yvonne?
Okay, so just a real quick comment about the coming soon. These things register coming soon. It seems to me like they keep changing. And so we can't even get a grasp on what it's supposed to be, and then it changes again. Just the other day, I was talking with the broker in our office about coming soon. And it was my understanding that you could show within your office. Well, he pulled something up that said, no, you can't. That's with the registered. So I'm like, I don't know. But other than that, out on the field with buyers, I'm sure you're all experiencing the lions and the crazy bidding. I've talked with a lot of listing agents because I'm not getting my offers accepted. And people are, keep in mind, I'm in the $400 to $450 price range. and people are overbidding $20,000 to $70,000 in this price range, and removing contingencies, appraisal contingencies, and playing that game as far as, you know, timing it before the investigations of the properties. And it's just very difficult for buyers in that price range. And on the listing end, I just took a listing, and one of the heirs to the property decided he was going to help out and put a for sale by owner sign right before I listed it. And I'm just like dying. And so he's got all these people calling, he's sending me, you know, these people. I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to navigate this with the register, the coming soon, the for sale by owner stuff coming in. So it's really messy out there.
That is.
Anyway, my head's just like,
I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm laughing.
I know, you have to laugh.
Wow.
Oh my, well, you're doing your business mainly out in Riverside, right?
I've always done pretty much from one Riverside border to the next Riverside County border. So yes.
Now, are you seeing appraisals coming in low or making it, or does it even matter? Because I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter because they've removed the appraisal contingency.
They were, but now we're seeing a little bit of pushback from the appraisers.
Interesting.
So, but people are paying, and they have that gap in there where they're paying $5,000 to $10,000 over appraised value.
How are they wording that? I saw that come up somewhere. No, it was on like a little CAR legal Instagram story where it's like they'll pay 10 to 20,000 over appraisal not to exceed the purchase price or something. What the heck
Yes,
is that?
that's exactly how people are doing it. Buyer will pay up to $10,000 over appraised value not to exceed purchase price or offer price.
Yeah, that's actually a standardized thing in other states. Like there's a form, I think it's like the 22 AD in Washington, and they've been doing that for years.
Interesting. So we're getting the Washington stuff creeping to California, and the Northern California stuff creeping to Southern California. Any crazy stuff out there is creeping into our market if it hasn't already. And Inez mentioned the escalation clause, which that right there in itself, I think, is worthy of a whole other meeting in itself. What do you think, Lori?
Oh, I don't even want to touch that one. I mean, people are making it happen. They're feeling that they have no other option, but it's complicated and it's risky. So CAR does have a good Q&A on it and a one page, the quick guide on it. Yeah, I know it says stay away from it. That's how I'm feeling. Stay away from it. But you know, you got to talk to your broker and see if that makes sense.
Wonderful. Anything else, Yvonne, before we move to Pam?
Not that I can think of. I just see a lot of the offer patterns, same as back in 07, 08.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff going on out there. In fact, I think it's even gotten a lot more creative than it was back then. I mean, just madness is happening. Pam, you put your hand up, then you put your hand down, then you put your hand up, and then you put your hand down.
She's taking it all around.
That was a test to see if anybody notices.
Do I win?
When I do it coming soon, I discovered I go into CAR, one of those web pages that has the rules, the CRMLS for coming soon. And I post the rules in all caps in the agent remarks. You know, like, don't even think about this and this and this. And I find that pretty much people are like, whoa. You know, I get like emails saying, did you really mean that? You know, we've got to follow the rules because you know what's at stake here? Dual agency. Do you know in other states you can't do that? And we're just like, my mother used to use an expression, don't shoot yourself in the foot. I never exactly knew what that meant, but it sounds like it would work here. We're, you know, because the market will change. This is going to go away. And then we're going to have the fun short sale market. So we'll be having another discussion. But, we need to, my problem with coming soon is not me and the people in this room. It's the renegades. I had one where a buyer knocked on everybody's door in the neighborhood and said to tell me that she wanted the house. But she had an agent. But the agent didn't want to call me because the agent knew the rules, right? So she knocked on everybody's door in the neighborhood. And I'm getting all these calls because it's in my farm. Who's this person? I won't tell you who it was, but she got the house. But they sent the offer during coming soon, and it's very explicit that the seller cannot, la, 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 la. So I do it in all caps, and I find that sometimes that helps.
Well, and they should know who they're dealing with. They're dealing with the professional standards queen.
Well, yeah, don't mess with me. I have a gun. No, really. I think that people on all those websites, those realtor websites where they just mastermind, there's a mastermind one where I'm surprised they're not all in jail because of the antitrust. We've got to be so careful. We've got to think back on all those seminars that we took, like Real Estate 101, when it talked about antitrust and all of these things. And we need to just go back there and just shut up. But I always say, I throw out articles of, the Code of Ethics. How about Article 3? You have to present all offers. How about Article 16? Thou shalt not steal the other person's client. And it's like, oh, shut up. We don't want to talk to you. So I just bow out because I can't. It's frustrating to know stuff and not have people comply. It's all about compliance. We're all equal. We're all in the same sandbox. Why are we throwing sand at each other?
And you're absolutely right on some of those other groups. Now we can talk antitrust because I don't think, this is not antitrust because Facebook groups are not businesses and entities, but there's some really, you're looking at the stuff that these groups are posting and we're talking thousands and thousands of members and you're seeing stuff that makes your head explode. And you're like, are you people in the same business as I am? Because if you are, you would know better than the crap you're putting out there. And I think also too, there's some new groups that have popped up that may or may not be maybe breaking rules, maybe kind of private MLS-y kind of groups that don't seem to really understand what's happening, not like, we're the end all to end all here. We learn, we're just trying to stay on top of things, but I'm seeing posts like, oh, do you realize that, NAR is not standing up for us because now we're going to have to let people in on our lock boxes. And it's like, do you not understand about the DOJ suit? Have you read anything? Have you educated yourself on this? And they're just out there causing all of this ruckus because they hear one little thing and they don't read up on it. They don't ask questions. It's like, hey, if you want to get that involved, why don't you sign up for a committee? Why don't you learn what's going on at NAR? Why don't you read something of substance other than what you're seeing on Facebook? And that kind of stuff is injurious to our business. It's injurious to our profession.
Yeah, there's that new, Article 3.5. People need to know what that is because
what is it?
Because not all of us have them memorized, Pam. So tell us, which one is that?
no, it's Code of Ethics. You're not supposed to fair housing. It's the fair housing one.
Okay.
That you can't discriminate even if you're not being a realtor.
Oh, you mean 10?
10 point. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh my God, we corrected the professional standards queen.
I'm I'm back in the one where you're supposed to present all offers, not hide them. Yeah. And there's a borderline Facebook edge that's making me really nervous. Not on the Nerdy Realtor page, because you guys are on it and I love it. The source, because you're so aware of fair housing. And people say, oh, that's so stupid. Well, it's not, it's a thing. And we have to understand that. And the things we say in Facebook, even if we're mad at another agent, we can't say it. So kind of hide from, unfollow those groups because we can't afford to be caught in a group like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on out there. One thing to remember, if you do see somebody posting something that is within the realm of 10.5, which we're going to be having it at Orange County Realtors, a couple of conversations about that for Fair Housing Month. We're going to have Matt DeFanis. In fact, we should see if Matt would want to come here. You think Matt would want to come here, Lori?
He would, yeah, he would.
We're going to ask Matt. I'm just writing down a list of all of the things we're going to do here. And Matt was the chair of NAR's Professional Standards Committee last year that put 10.5 into play and practice. And he's got stories. If you haven't seen his YouTube video about some of the things that were actually posted, that were submitted, it'll turn your stomach. It really is just disgusting. And what's really sad is there's a lot of pushback on this stuff too. There's agents that are sending into not only the state but NAR as well, how they should be allowed to say this stuff. And it's like, I don't know about you, but when like I'm looking for a landscaper, and I thought I found one until I saw the stickers on his truck. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing business with that person, because if you're committed enough to put those stickers on your car, then I don't want anything to do with you. And do you think that's not happening on Facebook, that, consumers are like, oh, well, I want to see who I'm dealing with. And then they get all of this, and believe me, I'm sure during, political season, I probably lost a couple of clients because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. But we have to realize people are seeing that and people are making judgments about us. And if you're sitting here, threatening a certain group of people that you're going to take a AR-15 and you're going to go blast them all, which is one of the things that Matt covers in his video, I think your business is going to suffer just a little bit, as well as your wallet if somebody turns you in. Thoughts, Lori?
Yeah, it's just disgusting. That's all I can say.
Okay.
But we do have, we'll put the plug for the Fair Housing Week at Orange County Realtors. It starts April 19th. It runs the entire week. One of those days I'm moderating a panel, but I don't remember which day. So we have
first out of the gate with Matt and Brian.
Am I on day one?
I
Probably.
think you are.
Okay. Oh yes, join President Lori. Okay, good. I'm on day one, so please join us at 10 a.m. We're going to cover the act, the NAR plan, and we have, let's see what else. I just lost the page. We do cover 10.5. It's a full conversation on 10.5 on the 20th. Code of Ethics Article 10, Standard of Practice 10-5. It's on the 20th at 2 p.m. We'll post the link to the calendar in the Facebook group. And then Wednesday, we're having no longer just a realtor. Lee Brown is going to be talking, and she's probably going to be focusing on how, our regular lives and our beliefs impact more than just us as agents. And then on the 22nd, the Thursday, we have an implicit bias training. And on the Friday, what's on the Friday? Buyer interest letters and fair housing updates. So that will be on the Friday. So we've got that full week. So we hope that you guys will join us for that.
Yeah, we got some good speakers coming in. I'm really looking forward to it. And, we also have our little sister sibling group, Deliberately Fair Housing on Facebook. If you're not a member of that, go ahead and join. They've got more members than us because, well, there's more founders of the group than founders of this, but we're doing really good. But
Well, you and I have a lot of the same friends, so.
yeah, I know. Yeah. Our reach is a little limited. So, I mean, hey, it would be cool if we could get over 1,000 here on Nerdy Realtors. So, if you know somebody,
Invite a friend.
invite a friend. We'd love for our membership to grow a little bit because we're trying to be professionals here. We're trying to be
Yeah,
professionals.
we're trying to share information so that we can make the industry better. That's the whole goal.
Hey, Pam, what's the Code of Ethics article number for cooperating with other brokers?
Article 3, she put up her fingers.
Aha. Well, let's see. And this is bopping back in again. Okay, well.
Well, I have a success story that I heard this week. Can I share it now?
You're your crazy good story.
Yeah, it's a crazy good story for this crazy market. So I was talking to a broker recently and she was telling me a success story. She struggled to get her buyer into escrow and finally did. And that seller is contingent on purchasing. So didn't really scare the buyer. They said, yeah, we're willing to work with that because we really want a house. We really like this house, but we really want a house. We can work that out, knowing that the seller was probably going to have equally as hard a time to find a property. So as expected, that seller was struggling finding a property. Finally, they get a counteroffer on one of the properties that they were bidding on. And they were contingent. And so they were a little worried they weren't going to get it, but they got the counteroffer. So that was encouraging. And so the agent that's telling me this story, remember, she's representing the buyer on the seller's property that they own. That buyer's agent called the listing agent for that seller's purchase to let them know how solid a buyer she had for the down leg, that they could confidently accept this seller's offer, contingent offer. Turns out it wasn't even the best offer, but that phone call made the difference because that agent told her, you know what? I like how you operate. The fact that you reached out to convey the strength of your buyer gave us the confidence that you guys would close so that this seller could then buy our house. So I thought, I don't know that I've ever really heard a story like that. I thought that was really great, really smart, and it made the difference. And once again, just like the story I told weeks ago about my daughter's purchase, not the highest offer, but you can convey the strength, you can convey the professionalism you have as an agent, and that can win over. So thought I'd share if you're struggling, if you've got a seller who's contingent too, maybe your buyer's agent can help you get the deal. So anyways, that's the deal.
That's pretty cool. And let's see, Yvonne wants to have a say in this. Okay.
Okay, so that just reminded me of another trend that I'm seeing out here is sellers wanting to stay on the property 30 days or longer. And so of course that's creating a tenancy, and that's another thing we're up against because a lot of my buyers are moving into their first home, and these guys are moving into their move-up home.
Yeah, there is a lot of that going on right now. And I know that there's, scary stories getting tossed around about sellers that aren't leaving the properties when they're supposed to, I guess, using the COVID rules or something like that. Lori, have you heard about that? Has anybody else out there heard about that?
Yeah, definitely. On
Yeah.
Friday's call, Lori, didn't they talk about that? Didn't Dev talk about that?
Yeah, they did. So I hadn't really heard much about it. There is a major one in Riverside County somewhere where someone's been on site for like a year and just claiming those COVID rules and can't evict them. So there is some danger with that. It makes that seller no longer contingent. So, on one hand, that sounds good, but yeah, then you've got this other issue you may have to deal with. So it's a risk.
Yep. Because now tenancy law takes place because now the seller is now a tenant.
Mhm.
So that's why they could claim COVID. Would you recommend holding money back in escrow, like X amount?
I don't know if that's really gonna do anything. I mean, if the person stays on site and doesn't pay, you know, how much, I don't know how much money you could even legally hold back. I don't know if there'd be a limit. But if the person's gonna stay, they're gonna stay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's messy. It can be messy for sure.
Yvonne, did you have anything else you want to add to that?
I was just gonna add, a few of us did look into the one in Riverside County, and there is more to it, and it did happen pre-COVID. Involved an investor, and apparently they let the people stay on the property long enough and didn't evict them or start the eviction process where it went into COVID. So now you have the issue.
Yikes. Just in time to give everybody ideas.
Yeah, well, and interestingly enough, I mean, it's the rules apply for a COVID reason. So in a case like that, you know, that shouldn't be a COVID reason. It could have turned into a COVID reason. We don't know. But if it started pre-COVID, then it would be hard to argue, because then you can evict for non-payment of rent, non-compliance of the lease. But when the courts were closed, you couldn't do anything.
Yep, that's for sure. Anybody else got anything crazy going on out there?
I have a question, Lisa.
Okie dokie.
Is there any word, and maybe this is more of a question for Lori. I know that the COVID forms were modified early into the process, but I had a situation 7 days prior to closing escrow. The seller, who had vacated 2 days prior, called me to say, Inez, I have COVID. And it was like, great, 2 days prior to our final walkthrough. It's not what you want to hear.
No.
And so, of course, my immediate reaction after I said, I'm sorry, blah, 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 is you're having the house clean and sanitized, right? And he said, well, I'll just wipe it down before, you know, I leave again, because he was in and out of the house. And I wish there was something in the forms that stated, outside of, you know, what's already there, that if they do actually come down with COVID, that it's their responsibility to, you know, clean and prove to the buyer or listing agent that it's been done. So long story short, he was unwilling to do it because he figured he would just, quote, wipe it down. And I wasn't there to confirm if he did or didn't. But obviously that's not what a buyer wants to hear, because when I had to deliver the news to the buyer, the first question out of their mouth was, of course, he's having it cleaned, correct? And he had just had it cleaned right before we showed the home. So from his perspective, the house is clean. For mine, you've got cooties now, right? So needless to say, it wasn't pretty. And you know who had to obviously spend, you know, $550 to get a company that just rips you off and, you know, thankfully gives you a certificate that states that their home was, you know, sanitized properly. So that was my closing gift.
Wow. Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's not addressed in the documentation. And I honestly hadn't heard any stories like that. You know, we've heard stories, haven't heard one quite like that. So
yeah, I asked around. Nobody had a seller come down with COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only solution that made sense was what you ended up doing, just for your own protection and, you know, for the sake of humanity. That's just the right thing to do, is someone needs to protect that buyer, and it ended up being you. You were the buyer's agent?
Well, wait for it. I was both.
Oh, you were both. Okay, well then you definitely had an obligation to take care of that. You made the right call.
Yeah, I just felt it was, you know, the seller, it would have been the right thing for him to do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even as an agent, I went in and wiped and opened windows and Lysol the heck out of this place. But it was like, look, you guys go in, I'll just wait here outside.
Wow. Yeah, that's disappointing. I mean, you'd like to hope that seller would have done the right thing, because if he were the buyer moving into a house where that was the circumstance, he would have wanted the
right.
owner to clean it.
And of course, that was the card I played, but he didn't really seem to care. So, you know, I never like to argue with anybody, especially a client. So I just said, you know what, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. You know, go get better, even though he didn't have any symptoms. And I took care of it with a great company, if anybody ever needs it, called Aloha Maids.
Nice. Good to know.
Okay.
Wow. That's not a great story.
No, I mean, I've been waiting to hear that because it's kind of like, you know, what do you do? What do you do? You know, I mean, I had clients that they wanted to get their house on the market, but they all came down with COVID, and it's like, no, we've got a few weeks. We're going to wait here, and then once you guys get me all clear test results and the house has been sanitized and aired out for maybe a week or two, maybe then we'll talk. But there was no way I was going to walk in. There was no way I was going to subject, you know, any service people to that. It's just like, no, we're just gonna.
Well, so here's a side note, just an FYI. So if in fact it does happen to somebody, we were scheduled, I think he called me on Friday. We were supposed to have termite work done on Monday, the wood repairs. They would not come in, and they were going to delay us 2 weeks. So there's a lot that gets affected
Yeah.
that we don't think about.
Wow.
Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot. Okay, Yvonne is back. What you got?
I had a similar situation early in COVID, and I represented the buyer. The listing agent notified us that the handyman doing the repairs, his wife came down with COVID, so we were waiting for him to test. What they ended up doing was getting a cleaning company that my buyer approved of, and the cleaning company listed the products that they were using so that we knew it was consistent with what was out there with Kalosha or CAR. And the buyer initialed and signed off on everything, but it did delay our closing by 2 weeks because the appraiser couldn't get back out there to sign off on something, and the repair still needed to be done.
So this is kind of when you would use that form that we all said none of us were going to use. Lori, what's the form called? The COVID.
Yeah, the circumstances one,
Oh, yeah.
addendum.
God, I forgot about that form.
Yeah. I guess it's being used sometimes.
Yeah, vendors, this, you know, because obviously it's our obligation and duty to notify anybody and everybody, you know, once we've been exposed to it. And it will delay because there's companies that will not walk into that house until one, you can prove it's been cleaned with a certificate, or, you know, aired out for a minimum of 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay, Gary's got his hand up. Gary, what are you going to say? That woke Pam up when I said Gary's got his hand up.
Well, I got to wake her up sometime. You know, it's, we have a property listed, or Pam has a property listed over not too far from our house. And I was there last weekend to show it to several people. And they clearly don't understand what the rules are. One of the agents wanted to know why we didn't have brochures posted out so people could take information along with them. Second agent didn't ask that, but they left their business card laying on the counter. So they haven't gotten the message yet that you're not supposed to put anything out there for people to use and touch. Just a comment.
Yeah, they're a little slow on picking that up, aren't they? You know, it's really kind of interesting. They'll figure it out when we don't have to do it anymore. And then they'll probably get all upset that there's stuff in the houses. But
my mind is kind of blown because it's literally been a year. Like,
I know, it's amazing. Well, and Carrie put some comments in the chat, but I would like Carrie to share her comments with the group so everybody on Facebook can hear your comments regarding sellers that are still in the house.
You know, I attended a meeting on Thursday, and I have to hold my license because of the way that we're required to do it working for a broker in California. Never, ever do I pretend to know what all of you know is from the real estate side. So I appreciate you staying on top of your game. With that said, I do attend a lot of the different meetings because I like to have a feel for how your side works. That was brought up, the holdover and the Riverside case and a few others. There was a lot of different mentions, and there was attorneys on this call. And there was mention of in the contract being able to state that the property is vacant before funds are released. And there was some pushback on that because obviously that's difficult and sellers are often allowed, I think it's 3 days to move out after the close and things like that. But does anyone know, is that something that's allowed where you can hold back them receiving their funds until they've gotten out? Would that help?
I don't know if you can hold all of their proceeds, but you can hold some monies, like John had mentioned, you can hold some monies. I just don't know if there's a limitation. And I mean, I would assume, okay, if we're gonna do a 2-month rent back, we can hold funds equivalent to 2 months of rent. Maybe an extra buffer. I know you can do that for repairs. You can hold the amount for the invoice plus like a buffer. I don't know if there's a law on it, but I remember a situation where we held an extra 25% just in case. So I don't know what the limitations are, but you know, if a seller just doesn't leave, let's say you do hold 2 months worth of funds, that would equal 2 months of rent, and they stay for 10 months. So you've held some money, but you haven't really held enough. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I just don't know if there are any limitations on it.
So
If you don't equate it to rent, are they technically considered a tenant? And does that protect from those landlord challenges of eviction and things like that? Because then you're not taking the landlord's stance. If it's just a certain percentage versus the equivalent of 2 months, it seems like if it's 2 months rent, then suddenly you're kind of leaning towards that landlord, kind of the buyer is.
Yeah, I mean, logically that makes sense. Normally, if they're staying beyond 3 days, we'll fill out the residential lease after sale, which does create a tenancy.
SIP. Yeah, the SIP.
Yeah,
Just trying to think of some ideas outside the box, that's all.
So I don't believe there's like a limitation to the amount you can hold back, because I actually had a client where they the per diem was going to be enough. They knew that the previous sellers were going to stay 59 days, less than 60, just because that's the way we as the lender wanted it. But the escrow holdback was for 30,000. So the idea was, I mean, because obviously the amount that was finally deducted was closer to 4,000 based on like mortgage and taxes, but the remaining roughly 25,000 was there as a, if you don't get out, I'm going to take that money from you kind of thing, and it was allowed. So
Yeah.
again, I don't know what the exact dollar amount is, but I know in that case the escrow holdback was for 30K, so which is good incentive to get out.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, that is really good information. And you know, while we have you here, no, number one, tell me the pronunciation of your first name so I don't insult you.
Oh, that's okay. It's Rajat Jetli.
Oh, okay.
Most people call me by the first half of either my first name or my last name. So
It's either
my
Raj
office
or
calls
Jet.
me Raj, and my wife calls me Jet. So, you know, you can go either way on that one.
And we call her Mrs. Jet, right?
Yeah, that would work. I mean, she, when we were getting married, I, being a progressive person, was like, well, you know, you can keep your last name if you want. I have no qualms about that. She's like, no, Jet Li is a way better last name. So she took mine. Yeah.
It's awesome.
What does a lender want and not want to see on a seller in possession rent back situation? Can you give us just some quick parameters?
I mean, as far as I could say on that, like we do have an investor limitation. Like we can't have it be more than 60 days. So even like right now, I have a client up in the Bay Area. Their seller wanted to stay for I want to say like 90 days, and we said no, can't do it, 59 or less. And so that's the way they wrote it up. Outside of that, I mean, there's nothing specifically that we would be bothered by. I mean, at the end of the day, most of this documentation is for the safety of the buyer. And I mean, as I'm trying, so I don't mean this in a bad way. As the lender, it's not that we don't care about the buyer. It's just that we're not protecting the buyer specifically. I don't know what like a nice way to say that is.
It's a CYA for you.
Yeah. I mean, we're covering our investors. Our investors are the one lending the money. They don't want anything longer than 59 days. Whatever the buyer wants to put in their contract, they can. As a person, I would advise them against doing anything too silly, but as a loan officer, there's nothing I'm required to. So.
Interesting, interesting. Well, it is 10 o'clock. Do we have anything that anybody wants to add? I mean, not like I have anywhere to go right now. Lori, any thoughts to wrap this up?
No, it's a great conversation. I always appreciate getting the direct input from the practitioners, from the audience, you know, who are seeing things and even bringing things to our attention. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got some good possible topics here. I'm gonna see who we can wrangle from CRMLS to have a discussion. See how that goes. But you know, this is how they make changes too. They get the input. They know that this is a good group. And you know, it was a while since Sarah from CRMLS has reached out to us, but she asked if they could come on, not like if we didn't contact them. They wanted to come here. So, you know, and considering we've been averaging about 30 people between Zoom and Facebook for this, I mean, that's better than a whole lot of groups get while they're live. You know, we got a pretty sharp, very good group of people here. And, you know, we can't say enough wonderful things about you all because we love you. We're so happy you're here with us. But, you know, that makes us a good audience for these people to present to because they know they're dealing with professionals in this group, not some yahoos from the Yahoo groups. And Pam knows who I'm talking about, all those Yahoo groups out there.
Well, and we get a lot of people that watch it on the replay.
Yeah, we do. Pam?
Well, Yahoos are a protected class.
Do they fall into any other arbitrary class in California?
Yeah, well, it says right out on the form, any specialty, Yahoo would be there, I think. So we have to be careful.
I don't know, they're agents.
Well, I don't know.
Yahoo agents are protected.
Well, it says anything with a special circumstance. I think after this is over, there's a whole lot of people whose pants are going to catch on fire. You know, liar, liar. Sorry.
Well, and I think that, well, and you know, that reminds me, we did talk a little bit about 10.5, Code of Ethics 10.5. That 10.5 applies to federally protected classes, not state protected classes. So, you know, if somebody's doing crazy stuff in California about, hey, look, Brad Pitt joined us. Our Zoom friends can see us. You know,
Are you saying I don't look like that? What are you trying to say?
I don't know, but I think Yvonne's in love. So before you turn somebody in, if it's a California protected class, it's not going to fly unless it's in California, I believe. Is that right, Queen O professional standards?
I would be careful at any rate, because the problem with all of this is anybody can, what you say and what the other person hears are two different things. And you can say, well, it doesn't apply in one place, but it should in the other. And then they can manipulate it to make it fit everything. You know what I mean? I just think we need to just stay cool. And, you know, the Code of Ethics, the preamble says, treat others as you want to be treated. We all signed up for that. Now I'm preaching to the choir, aren't I?
Yeah, I think you are.
Sorry.
And we do that all the time here. I mean, that's what we do, you know, I mean, and hopefully just people go out and spread the word. And it is amazing, especially in our day-to-day work. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Present an offer, communicate, do those things that you really would like done if you were on the other side of the table. So, hey, before we wrap this up, hey, Brad, do you have any words of wisdom that you want to give us? Oh,
You mean me?
Yes.
just checking in, Tony. Just checking to see if you're awake.
No, I'm awake. It's just that the babies are nearby, so I can only listen, unfortunately. So shh.
Okay, Brad has to keep quiet today. Anything else from anybody before we sign off for the day?
I believe the legal update for Prop 19 eviction moratoriums is later today. as well.
That is at 1 o'clock. And Lori, do you know anything about that speaker?
I don't. I have it on my calendar, but it didn't populate who's presenting, so I'll pop in.
Mystery attorney.
I don't even remember if it was a CAR meeting. I'm assuming it was a CAR meeting. It may not have been.
I think it was Orange County.
Was it? Oh, is it on Orange
Yeah,
County?
because the last one I saw on Prop 19 that CAR did, Neil Kalin was wearing a gray long wig with a big gray beard the whole time. And it was very distracting to try to take this all seriously with Neil Kalin dressed up like an old man.
Okay, I didn't realize it was from OCAR. Yeah, it's Robert Bloom from CAR. He's senior counsel at CAR. And it's hosted by our local government relations committees. So
Okay.
1 o'clock today.
Fantastic. And we did get a request in the Facebook chat for what was the name of the COVID form? And I said the COVID form that no one's been using. We'll get it in the chat. So Lori, I know you got the book. I know you got the acronym. We'll throw it in the chat.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to look it up. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that is how quickly we forget.
Remember-
things.
Once she mentioned it, I remembered the form, but I don't remember the acronym. So yeah, we'll plug in a few of these links for the calendars for the Fair Housing Week. We also have from OCAR on April 2nd, we have a legal update with Tom Jacobson.
Oh, and a reminder, if anybody's feeling really wild and crazy and wants to be on a NAR committee, National Association of Realtors Committee, applications are being done now. I think the cutoffs in May, I want to say May 7th, but I could be completely wrong on that. So if you were thinking about applying for an NAR committee, that's going on right now. So just a little reminder to those who want to do something different, expand your horizons.
What about run for president of NAR? Is that available? Because I wouldn't mind cleaning up things.
It's a long line. It's a
Oh,
long line. However, you know, if you're on Clubhouse and, you know, you want to hear more about the people that want to want to be president and are trying to do, improvements, because there's a lot of, and this is kind of going back to the Yahoo groups, there's a lot of misinformation going on, a lot of stuff going out in publications that are kind of wacky. And when you're really in deep and you're really researching what's going on, because it's like lawsuit city out there right now. Not only do we have the NAR DOJ settlement, which is not final yet because the board of directors for NAR has not voted on it yet. We've got that floating around. We've got all kinds of different lawsuits going out. There's a labor bill, the PRO Act, that is a federal bill about independent contractors and gig workers and what constitutes an employee and what doesn't. And everybody's like, oh, we're safe because we have our IRS carve out. It may not be. I'm not an expert in this, but believe me, I am reading and reading and reading because of their ABC test, which is different than the California ABC test. What is it that you do? They have their B. We can't do that in this profession, which is offer services that the employer does not do. Well, if you're working for a real estate broker and you're selling real estate, I think you're doing that business. So this is something to keep an eye on. There's lots of stuff to keep an eye on out there. Lots of lawsuits going on with, one brokerage mad at another brokerage because they won't let their brokerage do whatever their brokerage wants to do. Just crazy stuff out there. So, but anyhow, that's kind of where we are. I'll stop talking because it's almost 10 after 10. Anything else?
Nope.
Then I guess we're done. We'll go back to the regular format next week. I might put a poll up and ask everybody what they think, if they kind of like this, if they don't like this. But what was that?
It was really nice. It was good. It's very enjoyable.
Good. Wonderful. We appreciate that. All righty, so we're going to end this show right now. Thank you all for coming. We love having you all, and look forward to seeing you with all of these, topics that we're going to try to cover in the next month or so. Okay, so take care and go sell a house.